If you knew nothing about the history of Cripple Creek, Colorado, but were visiting here, maybe to hit the casinos, and you walked through the Mount Pisgah Cemetery, you might be surprised to see a headstone for a veteran of the 11th Battalion Canadian Engineers. But Cripple Creek hasn't always been the quaint little village that it is today. From the mid-1890s until about 1915, the gold mining boom town of Cripple Creek was one of the largest cities in Colorado. Many people from across the United States and Europe, and even some from Asia, came to the Cripple Creek Mining District, looking for better lives and chasing their version of the American dream. John Sidney Cottier was born on the Isle of Man in the UK on July 17, 1891, and immigrated to the United States in 1910, when he was about 19 years old. Cottier filled out his World War I draft registration card on June 15, 1917, and by then he was married to his wife Clara, who was American-born, of English parents. At that time, Cottier was working as a self-employed miner at the Granite Gold Mining Company. The Cottiers lived on Masonic Avenue in Cripple Creek. On April 29, 1918, Cottier went down to Denver and enlisted in the Canadian Expeditionary Force, and on June 1, 1918, was assigned to Company D of the 11th Battalion, Canadian Engineers as a sapper. The Canadian Engineers are similar to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This unit specialized in building bridges, clearing obstacles, and keeping communications lines open, tasks important to the infantry's movement and operations. Another important job of the sappers was demolition work, such as blowing up existing bridges to slow down enemy transport. Cottier sailed from Canada to England on June 29, 1918, and arrived in England on July 22 for training. He then left England for France on September 20, 1918. It should be remembered that there was a second war being fought in 1918. This was the start of the 1918 Spanish flu epidemic, which eventually led to an estimated 500 million cases and 50 million deaths worldwide. Cottier was hospitalized on September 26, 1918 with a fever, and again a week later with influenza. The armistice was signed on November 11, 1918, ending World War I. Cottier was discharged at the time of the general demobilization on June 17, 1919. He sailed back to North America on the ship Olympic, arriving in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada on June 13, 1919. The 1920 U.S. Census shows Cottier back in Cripple Creek, working in a gold mine and living with his wife Clara on Masonic Avenue. He was not a U.S. citizen at the time, but his papers had been filed. Cottier died on December 28, 1935 at 44 years old and is buried in the Veterans Block in Mount Pisgah Cemetery. Though Cottier served in an Allied army, the U.S. American Legion has honored his service with a grave marker.